If you've started down the marvelous path of making your own DIY products like room sprays, sugar scrubs, and lotions, you've probably had to ask yourself, do I need a preservative? Hi, I'm Katie Veldkamp, certified aromatherapist and co-founder of Simply Earth. I love teaching people how to use natural ingredients to make their own products. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Geogard ECT Preservative, one of our favorite preservatives to use at Simply Earth. We love it because it's natural and it's easy to use. I'll also be discussing what preservatives are, when to use one, and how to preserve your products using Geogard ECT safely. First, in this video, let's talk about what a preservative is. A preservative is an ingredient that is used to kill or prevent the growth of microbacteria, which, if allowed to grow, would spoil your product. Spoilage can look like mold, color or odor change, pH change, breakdown of the product, or a production of gas, which can make your container swell up. You've likely seen what spoilage looks like in food not stored properly or left in the fridge too long. Spoilage can cause irritation, infection, or even blindness in some cases when a product is used after it has been spoiled. In other words, spoilage, not good. A preservative, when used correctly, equals no spoilage. And you don't need just any preservative to protect your products, you need a full spectrum preservative that will protect against all the different kinds of spoilage. An effective full spectrum preservative is always made up of more than one ingredient. Rather than keep several preserving ingredients on hand and figuring out formulating around those ingredients, we like to use the ready-made blend of Geogard ECT Preservative. Geogard ECT is made up of the ingredients benzyl alcohol, salicylic acid, glycerin, and sorbic acid. These are ingredients that occur in nature and work together to protect DIY natural products from spoilage. You don't need to use any other preservative ingredients alongside Geogard ECT in your products. Along with the benefit of needing only one ingredient on hand to preserve products, Geogard ECT works in a wide range of pH. Most natural preservatives only work in the pH levels of 5 or below. Geogard ECT works in the range 3 to 8. That means it works with almost DIY products you'd want to make. For other natural preservatives, you'd need to make sure the pH is at 5 or below and adjust the product if it's not. Since Geogard ECT works in such a wide range of pHs, you'll rarely need to adjust your product with additional ingredients to get it into that range. Geogard ECT dissolves in both water and oil. It can be used in all types of skincare and personal use products. One thing to consider about using Geogard ECT is that it has a slight almond aroma that will get stronger as a product ages. We scent our products with essential oils and find that the aroma of Geogard ECT generally works well with them, but it can be a drawback to using it. So how do you know if your product needs a preservative like Geogard ECT? To answer that, you need to look at the ingredients in the product you are using. If your recipe contains water in any form and you want to sell the product or have it last more than 10 days, you need a preservative. If the product you are making has hydrosols, witch hazel, or aloe vera in it, it needs a preservative because those ingredients contain water. Mists, toners, gels, and lotions are common products that people make that contain water or a form of water and need a preservative. Oil-based products that contain no water don't need a preservative. Microbes can't survive without water, so products that are entirely made up of oils like lip balms, body butters, and essential oil roll-ons do not need a preservative. To help prolong the shelf life of an oil-based product, you can add an antioxidant, which is different than a preservative. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video from me about antioxidants. Before I tell you how to preserve your products using Geogard ECT, I just want to share a common mistake I see in the DIY natural product world. I'll sometimes hear that ingredients like witch hazel are preservatives. Witch hazel has some natural antibacterial properties, but it only prevents some microbes from growing. When we hear antibacterial, it's easy to assume that it will prevent from all microbes from growing. Antibacterial means that in a study, it was shown to kill some bacteria. The important word here is some, not all. Witch hazel, essential oil, and other antibacterial ingredients won't effectively act as preservatives because they cannot protect against all microbes. You might bring up that witch hazel often has alcohol in it. Alcohol is a preservative, but the alcohol in the witch hazel is not going to be enough to protect the recipe you are making. I also see this sometimes with aloe vera. Unless you are using aloe vera directly from the plant, it will have a preservative in it. The preservative used is formulated for that aloe vera alone, not the recipe you are making. The preservative used in aloe vera will not be strong enough to support the new recipe you are making with it. Okay, I think we're ready to get into how to preserve your products using Geogard ECT, a broad spectrum preservative that will preserve your products. Geogard ECT should be used at the 0.6 to 1% of your product to properly preserve it, and it should be added after the heating phase. Let's get into this step by step. I'll be showing you using Simply Earth's Peace and Quiet Creamy Lotion recipe, which I have linked below. Here's what you'll need along with the product you're preserving and Geogard Preservative. You will need a way to measure pH using a pH strip or a pH meter. A pH meter is going to be more precise, but it is more expensive. You'll also need a precise scale that shows at least 2 points behind the decimal. You're gonna want some gloves, a calculator, and I like to have a piece of paper beside me to take some notes as I go. First, let's check the pH of the product and make sure that it's in the range of 3 to 8. Most recipes that you make will be in that range, but it's always a good practice to actually check the pH to ensure that not only the preservative will be effective, but that it also will have the consistent quality you want in the product you are making. pH can be measured using pH strips or a pH meter. A pH meter is more expensive but more precise than a pH strip. For products like body sprays, you can measure the pH by putting the pH strips or calibrated pH meter right inside the mixture. But for a product like this lotion, there's not enough water present to easily measure the pH, and you'll need to use a probe like this one meant for cosmetics like lotions. You'll see some places suggest diluting the product in water so you can measure the pH, but adding water to a product is going to alter the pH of the product. If you'd like me to do a video going more into pH, let me know in the comments. Here I've got a small sample of my lotion. I'm going to measure the pH using this calibrated probe. Once the pH has become stable, you can write down that measurement in your notes to keep as future reference as you make this recipe again to check for quality and consistency. Measuring the pH confirms that Geogard ECT will be effective in this lotion recipe. My next step is to weigh out my lotion, being careful not to weigh the container, but the lotion itself. And once I have that weight, I can calculate how much Geogard ECT preservative I need to add to my lotion. So first, I'm going to place my container on the scale, and I'm gonna write down the weight of it, just in case I have an error later with my scale, so that I can use that in my calculations if needed. So I've written that down on my notes, and now I'm going to zero out the scale. So now my scale says 0. This button on your scale might say 0 or it might say tare. So I click that button, and then I'm going to pour in my lotion into the container. Now that I have my weight, I can figure out my usage levels. The amount of Geogard ECT preservative I use needs to fall between 0.6% and 1%. To find that number, I can multiply the weight of my lotion by 1%. This number should get me into that usage rate. When I multiply my weight by 1%, I get 4.806 grams. That's how much preservative I need. So the final weight of my product should be 485.406 grams. Now, if you are math-minded, you may be thinking, hey, you just added more to your product, so you have a new total weight. Are you sure that amount you added fits within the proper usage rate? If we want to check our work, the final weight can help us make sure we're using the preservative in that 0.6 to 1% usage rate. Here's how I check that. I take my final weight and multiply that by 0.6%. That's the least amount of preservative I should have if my final product weighs 485.406 grams. If I take the final weight of my product and multiply it by 1%, that should be the maximum of preservative that I add to my product. So in my original calculation of how much preservative I need, which was 4.806 grams, I can make sure that falls within that range. And it does. 4.806 grams falls between 2.91 and 4.85 grams. If you're still following me with this math, you could choose to multiply the weight of your lotion at the beginning by 0.8% to help protect against error. But to keep things simple, we can just multiply that original weight by 1% to get the correct usage rate. If that sounded confusing to you, I have a worksheet linked below that you can download that will walk you through this really simply. So now I'm gonna weigh out the amount of preservative I need, 4.806 grams. As I am weighing this out, I am wearing gloves and I am in a well-ventilated space. Preservatives are very strong ingredients, so we need to take these precautions when we use them. So I have my preservative laid out, I have my lotion, but to help things mix together more easily, I'm gonna take a small amount of my lotion, mix it with my preservative, then add it to the whole lotion. I'm gonna mix this into my larger batch. This just helps it get mixed in evenly and nicely. This process is super easy. All you need is the right tools. Without a preservative, this lotion would last around 12 days as long as I've used good manufacturing practices. I've been testing this preservative with this lotion recipe, and those lotions have been going strong for 12 months. But over time, the almond smell does get stronger, so keep that in mind. I've linked this lotion recipe below if you're interested in making it yourself, along with a cheat sheet for using Simply Earth's Geogard ECT. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know what video you'd like to see next in the comments.